From JBS Studios in Greater New York, this is the JBS News Update with Teisha Bader.
I'm Teisha Bader with the JBS News Update for Friday, October the 13th, 2023. U.S. Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin arrived in Israel today and met with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and Israel's Defense Minister Yoav Gallant, among others, on the situation in Israel after the brutal Hamas attack in Israel on Saturday that has left over 1,300 people dead. Netanyahu told Austin he was deeply appreciative of the strong stance of the U.S. administration. Austin reiterated that position and shared the comparison made of Hamas's barbaric attack to those of ISIS, saying Hamas is even worse.
We're with you, Mr. Prime Minister, and as the President said, we have your back. As you know, I was the guy that initially put the ISIS campaign together, and I know a lot about ISIS, and this is worse than what I saw with ISIS.
The Prime Minister calling for a united front against the terror group. At a press conference alongside Gallant, Austin said this is no time for neutrality or for false equivalence. There is never any justification for terrorism, and that's especially true after this rampage by Hamas. Adding, anyone who wants lasting peace and security for this region must condemn and isolate Hamas. Austin reassured that the U.S. will continue to make sure that Israel has everything it needs to defend itself, and said U.S. officials will also continue to coordinate closely with Israel to help secure the release of the innocent men, women, and children in the clutches of Hamas, including American citizens. Asked about concerns over civilian casualties in Gaza, Austin said Israel has a right to defend itself. My experience in working with the Israeli forces is they are professional, they're disciplined, and they are focused on the right things. Israel issued an evacuation order for Gazans from Gaza City today. IDF spokesperson Jonathan Conricus shared the content of the messages sent to Gazans to minimize civilian casualties.
The message that we sent, obviously in Arabic, to the local population in Gaza City, informing them of the need to evacuate from where they are for their own safety. This is the message. The IDF calls for the evacuation of all civilians from Gaza City. I'll zoom in a second. From Gaza City, from their homes, southwards for their own safety and protection, and to move to the area south of Wadi Gaza, the river Gaza, as shown on the map. Out of an understanding that there are civilians here whom are not our enemy and we do not want to target them, we are asking them to evacuate so that we will be able to continue to strike military targets belonging to Hamas in the Gaza Strip. The aim of the evacuation is simply to save lives.
The IDF said Hamas is telling its civilians to ignore the IDF messages. The Times of Israel cited IDF spokesman Daniel Hagari saying to a press conference today, though, that the population of Gaza City has started moving south significantly in order to defend itself. Hagari said today that IDF forces have carried out local raids in Gaza to rid the area of terrorists and weapons. He said in these operations, an effort was also made to locate missing people, those being held hostage by Hamas in Gaza. European Union Commission President Ursula von der Leyen also arrived in Israel today, meeting with Prime Minister Netanyahu and with Israel's President Isaac Herzog, after visiting a southern Israeli community, just one of the scenes of massacre by Hamas.
We have been this morning in the kibbutz Kfar Aza, and there are no words to describe what we have seen, the suffering of the people, the atrocious attacks of Hamas. These are acts of war, and therefore Israel has the right to defend itself, and Israel has even the duty to defend and protect its people.
She also echoed the call for the immediate release of all hostages taken by Hamas. Meanwhile, rocket barrages from Gaza continued today. The city of Ashkelon was bombarded by rockets, most intercepted by the Iron Dome. However, a few got through, causing damage but no reported injuries. And a rocket was said to have been launched from Gaza at northern Israel. The IDF continued hitting terror targets in Gaza and was carrying out what it said were new drone strikes against Hezbollah sites in Lebanon after the terror group opened fire at a number of army positions. Hamas issued a call for a day of rage today against Jews and Israelis around the world. Israel's National Security Council and its foreign ministry recommended that Israelis abroad be alert and keep away from demonstrations and protests. Taking a look now at our programming for tonight on JBS for Friday, October the 13th. Live Shabbat services are coming up at 6 o'clock from New York City's Central Synagogue, followed by Shabbat services at the Hampton Synagogue. Then it's a community solidarity gathering from the Stephen Wise Free Synagogue and the film Hate Spaces. That's followed by an FIDF War Briefing, and coming up next, a look at this week's Torah Portion. And that's the JBS News Update for Friday, October the 13th, 2023. I'm Teisha Bader, wishing you a Shabbat Shalom, a peaceful and quiet Shabbat. Am Yisrael Chai.